How's it going, my evil residents? Today we're going to do something different on this channel and dive into the Resident Evil 5 Iceberg. If you're unfamiliar, an iceberg is an image that compiles information about a usually niche topic or fandom in order from most known and normal to most obscure and or unsettling or conspiratory. The information I've gathered for this iceberg, which I did create myself, is compiled from personal experience through playing this game since I was 9 years old, Resident Evil subreddit, Resident Evil Twitter, the wiki, and some forum posts, as well as some game fact posts and YouTube videos. I've done my absolute best to make sure all the info in this iceberg is correct, but please do let me know in the comments if anything is wrong on here. This video has taken me months to make, and I usually don't ask at the beginning like this, but please do drop a like if you enjoyed this video and share it with a friend or two you think would like it. I won't waste any more of your time. Let's dive into all 8 layers of the Resident Evil 5 iceberg. Chris in Fortnite. On October 24th, 2021, Chris was added to Fortnite as a... I can't believe I'm talking about Fortnite right now. On October 24th, 2021, Chris was added to Fortnite as a skin for 1,500 V-Bucks, along with an RE3 remake version of Jill with her Stars outfit as an alternate style. The reason Chris is on here is because his main outfit is his Resident Evil 5 outfit, though he also has his outfit from Resident Evil Village with the coat. Chris was last seen in the item shop nearly 650 days ago on April 24th, 2023. Hopefully, he's back soon along with Leon and Claire, because I know a lot of newer players really want these skins. If it sounds like I'm about to laugh, it's because I am, because I can't believe I'm talking about Fortnite in a Resident Evil video. Boulder Punch. This is in the top layer because when you bring up RE5 to someone unfamiliar with the series, there's a good chance they're going to say, isn't that the one where the guy punches a boulder? Considered by many to be Resident Evil's jump the shark moment, despite the fact that Leon literally rides a shark in Resident Evil 6, and it is undeniably pretty hilarious. It's implied that the general public even knows about this, as Carl Heisenberg in Resident Evil Village knows about it and mentions it, even with living in a remote village and having no known contact with anyone who saw Chris do this. I do also want to mention that some people go so far with this meme as to ship Chris with the boulder, calling the couple Boulder Fields. It even has an entry on the shipping wiki. Thank you, Tumblr, for consistently making me question how deep the relationship goes with Chris and large, round boulders. Come on. Whether you play single player or co-op, I'm sure Chris and or Sheva shouting "come on" lives in your head rent-free to this day, or at least an entire week after playing or replaying the game. Something about the way both of them say this, combined with it being mapped to its own very spammable face button, means it's bound to be spammed to your friend, or your friend spams it to you at some point, or your partner AI when they're just being slow.
Come on!
Okay.
Come on!
Okay.
Come on!
Roger.
Chris is on steroids. There's no concrete proof that Chris takes steroids, but all it takes is one look at his bulging, throbbing, large, and vascular manly biceps to know Chris is the only protagonist up to this point besides Claire, and Claire isn't also built like a massive bodybuilder, so Chris must be on some kind of steroids and be in the gym most of the day, every day, to be this huge. This guy rivals Arnold Schwarzenegger in his prime. He is massive. It would be hilarious if Capcom ever confirmed this, but I doubt they will, because I doubt it would look too great if they outed their main protagonist of their series as being on gear for decades. I'm glad they committed to this look for him though, as he is just as huge in Revelations 1 and Resident Evil Village. Wesker in DBD. On August 30th, 2022, Albert Wesker was added to the asymmetrical quote-unquote horror game Dead by Daylight as a playable killer via the Resident Evil Project W expansion, along with Ada and Rebecca as survivors. He is basically one-to-one with his RE5 appearance, despite being a completely unique model and having a new voice actor, as for his default look anyway. However, he has Ouroboros powers that are under much better control due to some of the Dead by Daylight lore. I don't know too much about that, but I'm sure there's DBD creators that have covered it. Either way, he just uses it as a tentacle dash, so there's not much to talk about anyways. He's very fun to play, and most of his quotes are random Resident Evil 5 quotes that have nothing to do with what he's doing, but he's overall a fun and faithful addition here. Chris and Sheva in DBD. Along with Wesker, Chris and Sheva were added as skins for Leon and Jill respectively with their RE5 appearances, though Chris has his Stars outfit with an RE5 face model. Even though they're skins, they have unique voice acting and otherwise operate as unique characters, which is a cool way to add them for some extra characters and not bloat the character selection roster, which is already very bloated. They are about $20 each though, which is insane when a survivor and a killer each cost $5. BSAA. The BSAA, or the Bioterrorism Security Assessment Alliance, was an organization introduced in this game, but expanded on more in Revelations 1, a spin-off game released about a year later. Chris and Jill served as 2 of 11 founders of this organization, along with O'Brien from Revelations 1, though no other founders are confirmed. As of 2009, in the game's timeline, the BSAA is sanctioned in-universe by the UN and based in the UK, but has branches across the globe. BSAA is allowed to operate in any country within the UN, but each country is allowed its own limitations and restrictions on their reach even during crisis matters. 2 such countries are the United States and Spain, which is why there's no BSAA intervention within RE4 and a single US agent is sent in instead, or in RE6 in the first half of Leon's story, despite there being a large outbreak in Tall Oaks, which takes place in the US. There's lots more to the BSAA, but the video would be incredibly long if I went on about the whole history, so if you'd like a longer video about this, please do let me know in the comments. 7 minutes. This is in reference to a quote Wesker says right at the beginning of the Wesker and Jill boss fight and has become a hugely popular meme among Resident Evil fans.
7 minutes is all I can spare to play with you.
The boss fight will actually go on for 7 minutes exactly, unless you do enough damage to Wesker to cause him to flee and end the fight early, though it doesn't affect the story in any way whatsoever.
Self-righteous fools!
Roger Craig Smith. Roger Craig Smith is the voice actor for Chris in this game, Revelations 1, and Resident Evil 6, and is widely considered to be the fan-favorite voice actor for Chris. He brings a unique, heroic yet humble attitude to Chris, and later in RE6, a unique pain to the performance as Chris's guilt grows in the story. Aside from Roger Craig Smith's great performance, this is also when Chris is most center stage in the story writing and has a clear, distinct arc that is focused on, so the combination of those two things make his presence feel more unique and enriching to the character than other performances. No hate to other VAs for Chris, of course. Roger Craig Smith is pretty much everywhere in the gaming industry, but is best known for the roles of Sonic in various Sonic media, but most recently Sonic Frontiers, Ezio in Assassin's Creed, Batman in Arkham Origins, Captain America in tons of Marvel media, not Marvel Rivals, Kyle Crane in Dying Light, and Mirage from Apex Legends. Reloading in inventory. In this game, instead of reloading with the button like you normally would, you can combine the ammo in your inventory into a gun it goes with to reload it almost instantly if you get the hang of it. And you can do this during fixed animations to cut down on downtime reloading. Most people probably learn this trick from another veteran player, but it's not too hard to figure out accidentally, even if the game never directly tells you that this is a thing you can do.
I'll do my best!
Marvel vs. Capcom. Chris, Jill, and Wesker all make appearances with their RE5 likeness in the beloved Marvel vs. Capcom 3, which released in 2011. They all have really awesome movesets and share voice actors with their RE5 counterparts, except for Jill, who's voiced by Carrie Walgren. Aside from the comic designs are very faithful, and honestly, Jill's battlesuit in particular might look better here than in any other game it's appeared in, even in RE-verse. The cell shading and stylization just does a lot to really make it stand out. Wesker also looks especially great here. I like how the patterning in his coat is a lot clearer than in RE5, but isn't overdone.
KO! You win! What's the point of all this fighting?
Complete global saturation.
Ouroboros will be released into the atmosphere, ensuring complete global saturation.
This is yet another line of Wesker that's become a meme in the Resident Evil community and is honestly just as massive as the 7 minutes line. This even gets a reference in Resident Evil 4 Remake in separate ways, but if you haven't played that, I'll let you go find out yourself. If not, then if you know, you know. Cutscene infinite ammo. In most of this game's cutscenes, Chris and Sheva fire many more than 15 rounds, the maximum standard capacity for an M9 Beretta, which is what they use in this game. This is probably just an oversight that is pretty common in action media, but it's hilarious to think. Upgrading the Beretta to have a 100 round capacity in-game could just be a loosely canon thing, as they basically never reload their guns outside of gameplay. 5-2 Ouroboros boss bugged. As I mentioned in my Resident Evil 5 bosses ranked video, boss at the end of 5-2 where you have a second showdown against Ouroboros with new mechanics is bugged on modern hardware. The flamethrower's damage is tied to frame rate on a game that was designed to, and originally did, run on 30 frames per second. Playing a modern console at 60 frames, the flamethrower and other flame weapons against this boss do way less damage and make the boss painfully long. Play on PC with an uncapped frame rate, these flame weapons essentially do 0 damage to it though, so it's recommended to grab an RPG from the Marshall's level or the shop, or cap your frame rate to 30 on PC. Wesker hid a magnum in the sarcophagus. During the Wesker and Jill boss fight, it's possible to use a team interact on one of the sarcophagi to get a bunch of treasure and a desert eagle.
How'd that get in there?
In case you didn't know, ancient Africans did not tend to be buried with desert eagles as one of their prized possessions, so that implies that Wesker put the desert eagle there for safekeeping, as what other Tricell scientist would have the money to do this or the desire to? My headcanon is that Wesker put it there specifically for Chris as a little present to make their fight more fun, but you're welcome to your own headcanon on this hand cannon as long as you share it down in the comments. 5-3 chair. On chapter 5-3, you can sit in this chair to get some secret dialogue with Chris and Sheva. Racism. This is a pretty deep and complex topic. I ramble on about this for quite a while, so I will leave a timestamp right here if you'd like to skip to the next entry. I'm just going to outline the basics of each side and let you guys decide opinions from there. Please keep discussion on this in the comments civil though, as I've seen many people get very defensive about this on both sides. Many articles have been published about the dubiousness of the ethical nature of this game, quoting IGN in an article from March 2024, set in a fictional West African country. Resident Evil 5's primary antagonists are black. Yes, technically it's the Ouroboros virus that protagonist Chris Redfield is fighting. The parasite's host is depicted as a nation of mobs and primitives who are violent even before their infection. Intentionally or not, Resident Evil 5 positions Africa as the dark continent, an uncivilized world harboring a diseased population that needs gunning down via Western intervention in the name of global security. In all honesty, this main argument feels like a disingenuous straw man at best and an uninformed, ignorant take at worst. Ironically, this article fails to bring up the second main antagonist, a darker-skinned African woman. Its cast of supporting heroes like Josh, who are also African, and it fails to bring up that the actual main antagonists of the game, Wesker, Excella, Irving, and to some extent Jill, are all very white, even if one of them is African. The main plot of the game involves Chris and Sheva stopping Wesker and his associates from cleansing the planet via gene selection, aka the peak of genocide. Yes, you heard me correctly. The main plot of this game is Chris and Sheva versus the ultimate racist guy doing the ultimate racism. However, all that said, I do think that there are aspects of the game that haven't aged particularly well. Were these things made with racist intent? No, I very much doubt. Things like some of the enemy behavior with the village Magini, their designs, and overall how much more primitively they behave feels a little off even if they are an ancient tribe of people. That, as well as Barry, a cop, having a move called Miranda Rights where he executes a zombie on the floor with a massive revolver, aren't exactly the best things in the world and could definitely be reworked or removed in a remake of this game with little issue. All that said, there's more nuance to this topic than people think. The main argument I've heard online holds very little weight, but I think there are aspects of this game that could use a little bit of reworking that would harm absolutely no one. Resident Evil movie copied Wesker fight. In one of the live-action Resident Evil movies by Paul W.S. Anderson, Resident Evil Afterlife, they take the cutscene from the hangar battle in Resident Evil 5 and copy it nearly beat for beat with worse camera work and choreography. Before I show you the direct comparison, no, this isn't Jill. Yes, that's the guy from Prison Break as Chris, and yes, they removed Sheva.
You've really become quite an inconvenience for me.
What do you accomplish by unleashing Ouroboros?
Every day, humans come one
a step closer to self-destruction. I'm not destroying the world. I'm saving it.
M92F is a samurai edge. The starting handgun in this game is, of course, the M92F. Unless you're one of those RE fans that's super into guns, you probably didn't notice that this is the same gun that the STARS team used in RE0, RE1, and RE3, just a newer model and less personalized. I think this is a cooler detail, and just a little bonus entry, Wesker also has one in the QTE fight in the back of the bomber plane, though this one is the exact same pistol he had in Resident Evil 1, in addition to his other pistol. What a nostalgic little guy. DC Douglas. DC Douglas is the voice actor for Wesker in this game and is many people's favorite voice of character. He's well known for two reasons. He's known for being very active with community members and enthusiastic about his role in these games, and he's also known for, allegedly, being a sex pest and targeting young fans to hang out with him at erotic fanfic roleplay panels at conventions, as well as leaking RE4 remake concept art, so he makes the Iceberg for two polar opposite reasons. I don't want to get too deep into it, as this video is meant to be pretty chill, but you're welcome to do your own further research on that. DC Douglas has issued an official response to these allegations, but there are many people that still believe them, as his response is honestly just he said, she said type stuff. He was my friend. In the Desperate Escape DLC, Doug bravely sacrifices himself to let Jill and Josh escape. Jill calls him a brave soldier, consoling Josh, to which Josh responds, "He was my friend." This exchange is a direct reference to the 1987 classic action movie Predator.
Nice flying.
Doug, he would have done better.
I'm sorry, Josh. He was a brave soldier.
He was my friend.
Mac, he was a good soldier.
He was, my friend.
Chris is selectively a weakling. This refers to inconsistencies in Chris's rippling, vascularly bulging biceps and his Adonis-like godly physique he sports in this game that I mentioned earlier. In some parts of this game, Chris can do things such as push boulders that weigh almost 20,000 pounds, but in other scenes, he struggles to move the lid of a sarcophagus by himself. It's clearly just a gameplay thing, but it's very funny to think about. Wesker has his powers in Mercenaries. The game never tells you this, but when you play as Wesker, you can do various moves for the cost of just a little bit of health. You can do up to 3 dashes and do a special follow-up moves with it. The controls are probably different for PC, but on console you can press the right stick to do a dash. At the end of the dash, you can use the action button to do a kick at any distance, and you can do very slow turns. Shortly after you start running, you can also hold back and press the run button to do a quick 180 up to 4 times, or do 90-degree turns if you hold right and then press run. This is mostly useless in solo, but it's pretty effective in co-op since any enemy Wesker runs through gets stunned, even if he just barely grazes them. Secret RPG in the Marshlands level. If you go to the crashed ship in the middle of the Marshlands level, you can get a free RPG. To pick it up and then save and quit, you can restart the level and farm these to keep or sell. Stun Rod has friendly fire. If you hit your partner with the stun rod, it will stun them and do the damage animation, but won't actually do damage. That said, it is very annoying, so make sure you do it to your co-op partner as much as possible. Mercenaries unique areas. The Mercenary stages have lots of reworked or unique areas from the story mode, and they can be pretty cool to explore. On Public Assembly, you can go to the top of the holdout building and up on the hill in some extra areas. On the mines, you can get to see how some of it looks when properly lit. The missile area condenses multiple campaign areas down into one playable space with unique connecting spots. Experimental facility uses the lab assets for a wholly unique map. The ship deck lets you access a zipline from a unique tower, and the prison is a wholly unique area made from indoor Chapter 1 and 2 assets with the Volcano Skybox. With how fast-paced Mercenaries is, it can be hard to notice some of the stuff, and how cool it is that they went this extra mile compared to RE4. Complete local saturation. In Resident Evil 4 Remake, Wesker has a line referencing the line I mentioned earlier in the Iceberg.
I'm seeing quite the crowd here. I wonder what has them so riled up.
The President's daughter.
Undoubtedly.
Couldn't have picked a worse time.
Consider the village infected. Complete local saturation.
Minigun pack makes Hydra unusable. If you're playing as Chris and have the minigun, don't use the Hydra. Instead of offering some in-depth explanation, here's a clip. Mod to remove piss filter. There are lots of mods to remove the very strong yellowish greenish Mexico and Breaking Bad ass filter this game has on PC, most of which aren't too complicated to install. The particular one I'm showing off here is a video by ASD-17, so make sure you go check him out if you want to see more info on how to get these mods, though there's a lot of people that can help on RE Twitter and on the RE Discord as well. 6-3 chair. On chapter 6-3, you can sit in this chair to get some secret dialogue with Chris and Sheva. Flash grenades and flash rounds are OP. Something that lots of players, especially newer ones, sleep on are flash grenades and flash rounds from the grenade launcher. I think it's on basically any enemy, and if it's a mutated enemy, it'll just kill them instantly. This is a great way to deal with the worm-headed guys and the armored shell guys without wasting a bunch of ammo or without risking losing your combo in mercenary, or just easily set up tons of melee hits. Even better if the character is a one-hit melee attack. The grenade launcher flash rounds especially are amazing because they are dirt cheap and you can hold 12 in one inventory slot as opposed to 5. If you haven't used these much, give them a try. Even in story mode, you can straight up skip most any encounter. Zipper on Jill's battlesuit. Capcom plays pretty fast and loose with how far they want Jill's battlesuit zipped up, and it's honestly really funny. It makes sense that it's zipped up all the way for the story, then stays zipped down just enough so that you can see her injector and stays there. Cool. But in the Mercenaries mode, preview image has a zip down almost to her belly button. Why is it like this? No good reason, I presume, but it implies at some point they had Jill in Mercenaries with her battlesuit zipped down to Gooner levels and had the foresight to fix it. Ethan W. There's a file on the second to last level of RE5 that lists personnel that know about the ongoings of former Umbrella employees with Tricell and Progenitor research. One of the names listed is Ethan W. Lots of people assume this to be, or headcanon it to be, Ethan Winters from RE7 and RE8, but it's likely just a coincidence as Ethan knows nothing about either operation. Mia is the one who could potentially know about things related to this game, but even that's very unlikely since Mia started working for the Connections in 2010. This game takes place in 2009. Sometimes, Jill can be too serious. This entry refers to a very popular meme by Six Shadow from Lost in Nightmares, where Chris is fending off a horde of enemies and spamming callouts while Jill calmly plays piano.
Thanks.
Chris if he was an RE4 meme. This entry refers to an absolutely beautiful animation by Pale the Snake, depicting what would totally happen if Chris was an RE4, including throwing an egg at a Grotto so hard that it explodes. Sheva Swahili lines. Sheva has lines in this game in Swahili that are pretty easy to miss in the game. They're pretty cool. I'll play a couple of them here, but check them all out in a video in the description by Resident Evil Games 247.
Chopendeza! Chopendeza! Kuna nini? Kuna nini? Movi! Movi! Mungu nisaidie! Mungu nisaidie!
Chris is gay theory. I talked about this more at length in my video about Chris in RE5, where I mentioned it's a non-canon theory that some people subscribe to, and people got very annoyed and defensive about it. Thanks for the extra comment interaction. A lot of that discourse started with this game, but got more and more prominent up to RE6 when people really started talking about it. I just want to state at the top here, that writing and character coding can be interpreted many different ways by readers. Some tropes that could establish a character one way could be just as easily interpreted another way by someone else. Neither person is right or wrong, they just take different meanings from the text. Whichever meaning you take from the way Chris is written and how he behaves, please keep it civil comments. I just wanted to make it clear that this is theory, a game theory, and yelling at me for forcing characters to be gay literally does nothing and doesn't affect you whatsoever. Many Resident Evil fans interpret Chris's demeanor and behavior around other female characters in the Resident Evil franchise as him either being asexual or gay, since he shows little to no interest in having a romantic partner. He has no romantic chemistry with Jill or Sheva, and actively dismisses Jessica's advances in Resident Evil Revelation. Sure, this could come down to him just being a career-focused person, and he doesn't mention it whatsoever, and the only mention of him flirting with women was cut from RE5, so it remains unmentioned. That aside, Capcom has a regular history of making their confirmed straight male Resident Evil characters flirtatious with Leon, Carlos, Steve, Josh, and Jake. Sure, there's examples the other way, but they are either married, in Ethan's case, or fall into the same boat as Chris with Pierre's. Wesker in this game being a prime example. This isn't to say Chris is gay for Wesker, but the two are absolutely obsessed with each other in a way that goes deeper than hatred. Wesker always finds excuses not to kill Chris, opting to play with him instead, focusing on attacking him while pushing Sheva away. Wesker is Chris's main motivator, and Wesker carries the pistol he had when he worked with Chris on him at all times in this game and attempts to kill Chris with it, but hesitates and opts to monologue with him instead while aiming said pistol that connects both of pasts at him. Capcom likely leaves this ambiguous because Chris operates as the strongest self-insert character in the series. In Resident Evil 1, he and Jill speak very little in-game and serve as vessels to just play the game outside of cutscenes, where they pretty much just move the story along. They develop other stronger characteristics in lore and documents and in later stories. Chris's sexuality not being mentioned whatsoever is a leftover of that archetype he was built as. Capcom hasn't taken the time to expand on that directly in any way. This leaves players to guess and make inferences on this aspect of him based on what he does, how he behaves, and how he's written. As I mentioned, all of this comes down to how you read the text. Clues are there to support either side, and there's an excuse to debunk every single one from both sides of the aisle. Combine that aromantic writing, strong chemistry with male characters, his strongest platonic chemistry being with women, and his alternate outfits falling under lots of gay stereotyping, such as the sailor outfit in RE6 and the warrior outfit in this game falling under the leather gear culture some gay men are into. I know I went on about this for a while. I just wanted to be clearer about this here since I'm scripting this video, and the last time I talked about it was off the cuff, and I'm not sure when I'll be able to talk about this again in a video. I just wanted to be more specific and remind everyone to believe whatever you want. It's not confirmed either way. However, assuming a character is straight because it's not said, or assuming they're gay because they aren't confirmed straight are both leaps in logic and headcanons at best. Chris is gay believers hold just as much water as Chris is straight believers, so feel free to debate respectfully in the comments and remember that as you do so. Personally, I think he's ace, whether that be from general unattraction in that way, or him just being a career-focused person, or a bit of both. I respect both opinions on this though that don't demonize the other side. 1-1 Secret Dialogue. If you wait around right when you start a new game for about 3 to 4 minutes, Chris and Sheva will have a secret conversation about Chris being disillusioned with America and capitalism. Pretty fascinating and adds a lot of depth to his character.
Wouldn't you rather be back in America than a place like this?
Not necessarily. Some people might think America has its own dark side.
That doesn't sound very patriotic.
I'm just a realist. It's a capitalist society. Not everyone is cut out for that kind of constant pressure. Sure, there are opportunities to be had, but at what price? You gain, someone else loses.
You don't sound like any American I've ever met.
That's the great thing about us Americans. We're all different.
Ass shots. This game features quite a lot of ass shots to the point that it's comical at times how poorly placed they are, and I think the funniest one is this ass shot from Desperate Escape when Jill nearly dies. She hits the rogue X-Men pose. Lost in Nightmares Fixed Camera Mode. In Lost in Nightmares, you can play the mansion section with the classic fixed camera style by turning around and interacting with the door until it says ? Interacting with it one more time. It's fun to play around in, but honestly really sucks to fight with as the aiming controls do not change. You can turn it off by just interacting with the door again. Original RE5 trailer. Not many people have seen the very first RE5 teaser that featured a much less swole, blue-shirted Chris and no Sheva. This game clearly went through a lot of changes like RE4 did, and I'd be really curious to get more insight on the development of this game like we have with RE4 over the years. Unique weapons in Mercenaries. Stars, Wesker, and Barry each have unique weapons in Mercenaries mode that essentially act as M92F reskins with different stats, but BSAA Jill also has a wholly unique pistol called the PX4 with an 83% crit chance. It's really cool that they did this, and might be the only Mercenaries mode with the unique weapons up to this point, aside from Krauser's bow in Resident Evil 4. Excella Jiggle Physics. Jesus Christ. Excella is one of the supporting characters in this game and just so happens to be absolutely stacked. She rocks a dress to prove it for the whole game, and presumably because she's the least covered up character, her physics are much more dramatic than any of the other female characters as far as the chest is concerned. Jill and Sheva also have these physics, but it's incredibly distracting on Excella, especially to the point that it's funny sometimes. Stars Wesker is the best Mercenaries character. It's a near unanimous opinion that, stats and gear-wise, Stars Wesker is the best character in the Mercenaries mode, even above Excella. He has some of the most effective melee moves on the roster, his pistol does lots of damage without killing or doing crits, so a headshot and melee will always kill for maximum points. He has the Hydra for some insane crowd control and mutation clearing, and then he has the L-Hawk which can lay down big damage on boss enemies or mutations in an emergency. Even if Excella had the highest damage melee moves, Wesker's weapons just cover every single area his melee attacks don't and make him by far the best character. Plus he's easier to use than Excella, and his special Wesker melee moves work really well in co-op. Either way, he's easier to use than Excella, but it mostly comes down to Excella having to be played more carefully. Really quick here guys, I don't normally like to break up the video, but I'd really appreciate a like and a share on this video. It's been months of research and work getting this together, so I'd love to get this out there as much as possible. If you're really enjoying it, feel free to subscribe and help me get to 10,000 subscribers. We are really close as of the time I release this video. And I also have channel memberships to consider starting at just $1. Anyways, sorry for the shameless plugging. Back to the video with Layer 5. Wesker isn't wearing leather. Lots of people refer to Wesker's outfit, especially his coat, as leather. I 100% understand why this is the case, but if you take a really good look at it, it's a carbon fiber material without the resin on it that makes it rigid. This type of cloth is super abrasive when made this way in a weave, so it's likely had some kind of lining inside to not absolutely destroy his skin. That said, since it's carbon fiber weave, it's likely very breathable and cool to wear, as much as a full body black suit and a trench coat in African heat would be, though it's not as breathable as something like cotton. The main point of this fabric is that it is very strong and durable, so it'd hold up well to how fast, agile, and flexible Wesker is. Additional fun fact, this is the same exact material Nemesis's trash bag fit in Resident Evil 3 Remake is made from, so that's a much smaller weave pattern. It's used there as a mutation limiter for the parasite, so that leads me to question if that's its use here as well. There's no confirmation either way, but it's neat to think about. All enemies routed. Due to the different difficulty balancing in Resident Evil 5, not many people know that you can actually win a Mercenaries match by killing 150 enemies like you can in Resident Evil 4 Remake. There's no HUD element indicating it like in Resident Evil 6, so the only way to find out is to find out for someone else or do it yourself through sheer will. On No Mercy mode, the all enemies routed threshold is 400 instead of 150. Jill ages slowly. Due to Jill's T-virus exposure and treatment, and Wesker's experiments in this game, it's confirmed that Jill ages slower than a typical person would, and it's why in Death Island, which takes place in 2016, this 51-year-old woman looks the same as she did in RE3 in 1998. Grenade door skip. On Chapter 2-1, you can skip the section where you have to send your partner to the opposite building to unlock the door with a well-placed grenade. Resident Evil 5 originally not co-op. We can presume from Resident Evil 5's E3 trailers that feature only Chris that this game wasn't always intended to be co-op. It likely would have played a lot more like RE4 did and been a solo Chris adventure, but they added Sheva and reworked the story to warrant a co-op mechanic, as the game wouldn't have had much in the way of unique mechanics to market it if they didn't do this. Ink Ribbon goes into more detail on this in one of his RE5 videos, so I'll link that in the description if you want to hear more. Popularized RE Rule 34. Yes, this is on the Iceberg. Due to this being the first Resident Evil game to feature truly HD models, people quickly got to work ripping the models from the game to use for renders. Gary's mod shenanigans, and well, yeah. I think I've said all the info on this that I can without getting this video demonetized. Research further at your own risk, you pathetic gooner. Barry and Rebecca cut from base game. This is something else Ink Ribbon mentioned in his RE5 video. Barry and Rebecca likely had roles in this game, with Barry as the merchant RE4 style and Rebecca as the supporting character, probably like Hunnigan and Resident Evil 4. At some point this was scrapped and reworked, but they had the models done and added them to mercenaries to make use of wasted dev time. Chris AI is better than Sheva AI theory. This theory goes to assume that the AI that controls the Chris partner is smarter than the Sheva one, and a lot of people think this, a surprising amount of people. However, this is just not true at all. Both characters work off of the exact same AI. Why do people think this though? I have no hard evidence to support this, but I think it's a result of Sheva being unlockable to play as. People have played the game once and are better at it by the time they play as Sheva, and are more used to how the AI behaves than on their first playthrough. So they interpret them being more used to the game's mechanics and the AI behavior as the partner AI just being better overall. Multiplayer is still active. On most occasions, as long as it's not the middle of the night or something, you can find a multiplayer match or open co-op game on console if you wait a couple minutes. I've had people join me while I'm waiting for a friend to join, and it's pretty cool to just play a random match with someone nearly 16 years after this game was released. Give it a try sometime and see if you can find a match. Why Jill is blonde. This has a pretty similar explanation to why Jill ages slowly. It's due to Wesker's experiments sapping the color from her hair. It seems to come back to normal after the experiment stopped, but she could just be dyeing it brown again. We don't know for sure. Partner melee attacks. You can chain 3 partner attacks to do a special move as each character, and each one has their own unique finishing move. I went in detail on these in the Resident Evil 5 melee moves ranked video, so you can check that out with the card up top or in the description, but I'll show a couple of them right now as well.
I can hear you up there.
Very poorly aged melee move. I mentioned this earlier in the Iceberg, but Barry has a melee finisher in RE5 called Miranda Rights, where he executes an enemy on the ground with a revolver. Keep in mind, Barry is a cop, and Miranda Rights are what are told to you when you're arrested to assure you're allowed a lawyer present during police questioning. So safe to say, this has not aged well at all. Haunting. That's right, you can emote on people in RE5. If you click both sticks on console or press X on PC, each character will do their own unique taunt.
You're just not ready for me. I'm Rebecca! I'll do my best!
Wesker survived RE5 theory. Many people huff on the copium that Wesker survived Resident Evil 5. The main basis for this is that Wesker was proven so durable with Ouroboros and his other mutations that the dual RPGs in a volcano wouldn't have killed him, and he's been hiding ever since, maybe even working with the connections from RE7 and 8. I don't think this is true at all, especially since Ouroboros' specific weakness is fire and he died in a volcano. That's as fiery as it gets. I'd be open to people convincing me otherwise in the comments, and if they retcon his death, I think I'd be okay with it if it's done well, but yeah, this theory doesn't hold up too well, in my opinion. Loading screen continuity errors. Resident Evil has a lore and story summary built into the game, and it displays entries in it during the loading screens, but it's fully readable in order in the main menu. Here it catalogs pretty much everything that's happened up to this point, and it's a really great tool for people new to the series or for people who missed a couple games and need some added context. I've seen people mention in various places that some of the things in here are slightly different than what happened in the game or are retconned later. I personally could not find much of anything, but I'm not a huge lore person for Resident Evil, so if anyone watching knows of some continuity errors, please share them in the comments. The only one I could really spot is in the RE4 entries. It says that Leon defeated Krauser, which is true in the remake timeline, but when this game existed in the original timeline, Ada actually defeated him in separate ways. It does say defeated, not killed, so I guess it's not technically inaccurate, but still, it's the only thing I could really spot that was off. Fox News. In Chapter 6-2, in the same room as the Ethan W document I mentioned earlier, you can zoom in on the bottom of these monitors to find a Fox News logo. It's very pixelated, but if I pull up a logo from that time and show you side by side, it is very clear. I have no idea why this is here, but it's kind of neat, I guess. 5-3 Out of Bounds. There's a cool Out of Bounds area in Chapter 5-3 you can access with mods on PC, so I'll show it here. The clip is from Wilson Espo.
You're merely postponing the inevitable. You can't hide forever.
Sheva's business outfit is Hunnigan's outfit. I'll just show her side by side here. It's never mentioned in game, and it's very clear that this is Hunnigan's outfit, Leon's handler in RE4 and RE6. It's really cool to be able to use this in game, and the outfit's one of my favorites. Now Capcom just has to take the next step and make Hunnigan playable. Sheva was a child soldier. Sheva's parents worked at an umbrella factory in the 90s, and they lived in a well-off company town up until Umbrella presumably wanted to shut the factory down. Instead, they staged an outbreak there to collect combat data on the T-Virus. The local Umbrella security service basically slaughtered everyone in the town, with only Sheva and likely a couple others escaping. Umbrella publicized this incident as an accident, staged an exploitable insurance situation with the victims' families, and profit off the insurance claims. Sheva was on the run and barely scraping by, nearly starved, and in hiding until some guerrilla fighters in the area rescued her after stumbling upon her stranded in the African savannah. They took her in and helped her back to health. At this point, they revealed to her what actually happened to the factory, radicalizing her and causing her to join the guerrilla resistance at age 15, and she served with them for many years until some American and British spies arrested her and her militia. She struck a deal to wear a wire for Sting to free her guerrilla teammates and went off to America with one of these agents to be educated there, and joined the BSAA shortly after graduating college, where she met Josh after being assigned to his unit. Sheva honestly has some of the most interesting yet depressing backstory in the entire series, and I'd really recommend reading more about it if you're interested. I got the bullet points here, but you can find more info on the wiki and on the in-game profile on Sheva in the library tab. RPGs can't be fired from helicopters. I've mentioned this in my plot armor video on the game where I see how high the character's medical bills would be. Go check it out if you're interested. RPGs are fired from helicopters twice in this game in the first level, and last level to take out Wesker. This is impossible, as the backblast would burn the pilots and very likely ground the chopper from the sudden lateral force. Cut daylight mechanic. At some point in early development, there was a daylight mechanic that would obscure your vision when entering or leaving dark areas as your eyes adjusted. I assume this was to help with the fear factor of daylight segments and to help immerse you in the setting a bit more. This honestly just sounds super fucking annoying to deal with, and I'm glad they removed it. 2-2 out of bounds. There's a cool out of bounds area on chapter 2-2 where you can just kind of glitch out of your way with this fence. It's really cool, and I'll show a clip here. It's from Travis Bartley.
Come on!
Okay.
Shooting fish in marshlands. In the marshlands level, 3-1, you can fish either from the huts or on the boat and collect 50 gold from each fish. Is this efficient? No, not at all. Is it fun? For a few minutes, yeah. Originally, I thought this gave secret dialogue, but upon getting footage for this video, it seems it doesn't, so I may have just Mandela affected myself. Infinite eggs. You may have seen the infinite egg item in Resident Evil 5 videos online, and I regret to inform you that this is obtainable via hacks or mods only. You can gain a ton of eggs via save scumming the egg island, but that's a separate entry that we'll get to in just a bit. Egg cloning / item farming. Resident Evil 5, there's a couple ways to absolutely bust this game's economy through farming treasures or duping items. Duping works much the same as it does in Dark Souls, where you and a partner load into a game. Have your friend load in with the item you want to dupe, and have him leave so the AI has his stuff. Request the stuff from the AI, and then end the game. He will keep his item, and you will have it now as well. Then just swap roles and repeat as much as you'd like to duplicate items. You do this for money, dupe rotten eggs, as they sell for the most, but you can also dupe ammo, grenades, things like that, just not weapons. As for item farming, there's a couple places where you can abuse checkpoints to get tons of money, and it's not as fast as egg cloning, but it's more ethical and not a total glitch, just an exploit. Most people use the ending checkpoint of chapter 3-2 with the chest on docks. Some use the Heart of Africa checkpoint after the Wesker and Jill fight, or the first checkpoint of 5-3 as that's the easiest to set up. If you simply load the checkpoint, you get treasure, press endgame, and then press continue from the main menu. It's very simple, just tedious. Albert Weaker. This refers to a typo in the in-game subtitles late in the game. Wesker is mistyped as Weaker.
Wesker was planning to spread Ouroboros throughout the world. Wesker was planning to spread Ouroboros throughout the world.
Originally had regular zombies. As visible from the game's first trailers and early concept art, Resident Evil 5 seemed to have more typical zombies that didn't work as much like Ganados from RE4, the only difference being a speed boost to fit the action styling of the game. I'm not sure how well this would have worked, as I really like the Magini in this game. There's definitely a more survival horror version of RE5 somewhere in the past that we never got to see that I would really like to see. Crouch walking. There's a couple videos of this super rare glitch that I have never gotten personally, where the characters can get really short on chapter 2-2. I have no idea how to recreate this, and I cannot find online how to do it. So if anyone knows, please share this in the comments. The clip of the glitch that I'm showing in this video is by Andrew Martyr on YouTube. Sheva and Sherry are the same age. Yep, that's right. Something very few people think about, as the characters never interact and feel wholly separate, is that Sheva in this game and Sherry Birkin from Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 6 were both born in 1986, making them both 23 years old during 2009 when RE5 takes place, 27 in 2013 when RE6 takes place, and both turning 39 this year in 2025 at some point. Sorry if I made you feel old. Ouroboros was never stable theory. This theory claims that natural selection via Ouroboros, like Wesker intended, wasn't feasible, as we never saw someone bond with Ouroboros long-term in RE5. The two bosses we fight were instantly taken over by it, as was Icicle, and Wesker himself seems to rapidly mutate in his boss fight at the end. He grows more and more as the boss goes on, clearly in pain, and it could have been assumed that he's stronger than a normal person, he was just able to resist being overtaken longer. However, we don't truly know as Wesker was killed before completely bonding or being taken over by Ouroboros. Wesker hating Chris implies RE1 playing as Chris is the canon choice. This isn't something I hear too often, that's why it's down here at the bottom, but RE1 doesn't really have a canon playthrough or ending. The events are all sort of pseudo-canon at once, since we have a vague idea of what happened with few specifics. However, Wesker hating Chris so much more than he hates Jill implies that he had a larger hand in stopping Wesker than Jill did, so playing as Chris in RE1 with Jill locked up until the end seems to be the most correct way that things played out. 2 ways to remove Jill's brainwashing device. In the Jill boss fight, you can remove Jill's brainwashing device with her standing via a partner action, or on the floor with a solo interaction. I don't know why they added 2 ways to do it, but it's really cool and it adds some replayability, plus you get an achievement for doing it with the partner interaction. Jill's sandwich is out in her battlesuit. For obvious reasons, I will not be showing this, but if you are truly that curious, you can view this on Jill's character figurine in the main menu, or with some expert pausing in the cutscene between boss fights in Chapter 5-3 when Jill does a flip to disarm Chris. We're going to leave that at that, because I really don't want this video to monetize, but yes, Jill's sandwich is on full display for anyone to look at. Interesting choice there by Wesker when fitting her for her battlesuit. Resident Evil 5 Grenade Launcher Smiley Face. This refers to a wiki entry from the grenade launcher where it says that the grenade launcher model had a smiley face on it. Well, that would be cool. Unfortunately, this is not true. There's no smiley face where the wiki describes. Plaga fossils in underground ruins. On the pillars in 4-2, in the puzzle section where you aim the sunbeams, you can see fossilized plagas from Resident Evil 4 in the pillar. This is a really awesome bit of world building that I've never seen anyone mention before online, and it really helps connect these two games in a more direct way. Plagas originated from this area with Progenitor, so it makes sense for them to be here. However, knowing that there's fossilized plagas surrounding you in the walls and the ceiling so deep underground is very, very unsettling. Christopher Redfield. For our final entry, I figured I'd go with the most cursed entry on this entire Iceberg. In one of the trailers for RE5, the live action one, Chris is referred to as Christopher Redfield for the first and only time in franchise history. I assume this is a mistake, as he's only ever been referred to as Chris, even on official IDs, so I really don't know how this happened. All I know is that calling this man Christopher is absolutely cursed.
Sacrifice. Valor. It is a great honor that I now present this medal to Christopher Redfield with the gratitude of a nation and the world. Christopher Redfield, Christopher Redfield, Christopher Redfield.
Well, that's going to do it for the Resident Evil 5 Iceberg. If you guys would like a sequel to this video with another game, please do let me know, as I've had tons of fun making this video. It was a ton of work though, so a like and a share would be deeply appreciated. And I have $1 channel memberships available if you'd like to support me more directly as well. Hit the subscribe button to stick around for more Resident Evil content and help me along to my goal of 10,000 subscribers. Special shout out to all my members on screen now, but 2 very special shout outs to my nefarious resident, Guy Incognito, and my malevolent resident, Donna Dracula TV. And check out the description to find my Blue Sky and a link to my Discord server to get to know the community. That's going to do it for this video. Let me know in the comments which entry was your favorite, and stay evil, my residents.